I'm Diane Hall with AARP Missouri, and I'd like to welcome you to Yoga with Tyler. This is the first class of an 8-week series that will run through November the 17th. This yoga series is part of AARP Missouri's Moving It Fitness series. And if this is your first time joining us or your first time in a yoga class, do not worry. You'll easily be able to follow the moves and positions as our instructor gives excellent explanations and cues. Now, this class is suitable for many levels of fitness. However, you know your own limitations. Please do not try to go beyond what you know is right for you. If you have any concerns at all, please check with your doctor before participating in this or any other AARP fitness offering. AARP Missouri also offers other live classes, bar rumba, and bar like ballet bar and rumba like the dance. So that's an interesting one. And Forever Fit. And we have links to past programs like Zumba Light and Movement for Life that you can participate in from the recordings. You can find the links to current, past, and upcoming programs at aarp.org/movingit. All of our programming is created with people age 50 plus in mind, but it's good for anyone of any age, anywhere. AARP hopes that our fitness classes like yoga will be great options for anyone who may not be able to or who may be hesitant to attend a traditional fitness class, like caregivers, or if you have a health reason, or maybe just for the convenience of working out at home. In addition to our online fitness classes, AARP also has resources for fraud prevention, for caregivers, up-to-date COVID-19 information, and technology information on our website at aarp.org/nearyou. Now, let's get started with yoga. Tyler, take us away.
Welcome to our 8-week series on exploring our energetic centers. Our energetic centers are areas along our spinal column that have nerve bundles associated with organs, glands, tissues, and other functions of our body. So certain movements that we do in yoga, or certain poses, can bring energy or movement or a shift into that area. There are 7 main energetic centers, and you may have seen or heard the word chakra in yoga, or seen the illustration with somebody seated and bright red and yellow and orange and blue dots moving up the spine. So for the sake of this class, we'll refer to these as our energetic centers, because when you look at the human body, our nerve bundles align with those dots that you see. For today's class, we're going to study the root chakra. Now, a certain yoga pose doesn't just specifically correspond to one energetic center. It could correspond to 2 or 4 or 7. So in other words, you might see a pose in this class and you might see it next week, and it's still appropriate for both of those energetic centers. So just so you understand that. And if you want to go into a deeper exploration about chakras or energetic centers, there's a ton of information out there for you to research on your own. And we can talk about places to find that after class. So today's energetic center is the root. And we'll start studying from a seated position. If being on the floor isn't comfortable for you, sitting in a chair is great. Just make sure that your feet have full contact with the earth. As the root energetic center, this is our body's energetic connection to the earth, to the ground. If you are able to sit on the floor, it can feel nice to elevate your hips. So play with your props in your space. We'll come to this, it's called easy pose or Sukhanasana. We'll come to this position throughout our classes. So taking some time to get yourself situated in this pose can feel good. For me, I like to rest my knees on a block in this pose. So whether you're in a chair or whether you're on your seat crisscross applesauce, or for some people, it can feel good to sit like this. Probably not all of you or most of you, but this is an option for seated to start our class. It's nice if you can make contact with your sits bones. So bringing your awareness inside and imagining the bottom of your pelvis, notice if you can have your pelvis connect to the earth. And if you're not quite sure you're on those bones, simply rocking back and forth, you'll be able to feel yourself roll across those sits bones. And there's going to be that magic place where the sits bones feel most connected. Once you feel connected to the sits bones, imagine them pushing down through the surface of whatever you're sitting on as if they're rooting into the earth and stabilizing you. From that rooted and grounded feeling, you can start to lift and lengthen up through your spine, reaching the top of your head up to the ceiling or up to the sky. And just notice how that feels. Notice what it feels to be long and tall, but also grounded at the same time. Notice if your knees are relaxed or they're having a tendency to pull up. Can you really sit and ground down and feel downward energy? The shoulders are moving down, tethered to the earth. This area is located at the spine. The root energetic center is located at the base of the spine, or the sacrum, where our first vertebra fuse together at the base. And this area is associated with the feeling of being grounded or rooted. It's associated with feelings of safety and security or having your needs met. Sometimes if you feel lethargic or stuck, it could be that you need to move energy in this area. So as you bring your awareness to this area of the body, maybe visualize this root energetic center or your sacrum and its connection to your legs, your rooting in the earth, your digestive system, organs of elimination are also associated with this area. Take one more breath and relax. And sometimes a mantra or a phrase you can say to yourself associated with this area is, I am safe. So if your mind wanders, or if you're not feeling super grounded, you can just say to yourself, I am safe. We're going to transition from our easy pose into some movement. So inhale your arms up, reaching overhead. And exhale your arms down. Keep moving on your own with your own inhales and with your own exhales. I want you to notice that your arms move with your breath and at your pace, not with the speed of my breath and my pace. So try not to follow me visually with your eyes. Just listen to my voice. Inhaling, arms up. Exhaling, arms down. We're going to pause and leave our arms up at the top at our next inhale. Pause and leave the arms up. And then bring your right arm down and root it down into the earth. With your palm pressed into the earth, you might use a block to help you make connection. Feel the sits bones root. Lift and lengthen to the left side and get a big stretch. Separate the ribs from the pelvis. And then come up and over to your right side. Try not to peel up your left glute or your left sit bone as you peel up. Stay rooted and grounded below the waist and nice and long through the spine and the upper body. And breathe here. You can exit this pose with an inhale. So you inhale your way up and exhale your arm down. And you're feeling the difference between rooting down and then lengthening spine and your arms up. We'll try that on the other side. On an inhale, bring your arms up into the air. On your exhale, take your opposite arm down and feel it root into the ground. My knee is kind of in the way, but you can bend your elbow a little bit. Notice if you get up into this kickstand, maybe avoid that kickstand with your thumb. Really press the palm down to the ground or elevate your palm if you need to. Right arm extends up, but we're really creating length in the right side body. Inhale it up. Exhale, come over. Let this opposite knee, the knee associated with the arm that's reaching long, relax. Notice if it wants to pull up, let it relax. Stay seated in your sit bone. Inhale yourself back up to center. And exhale, hands back down. We're going to move into tabletop position and then a child's pose next. So if you're seated in a chair, you're going to come down to the floor into a tabletop position. Tabletop is just simply hands and knees, wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. And this is where anytime you're in tabletop, it's perfectly fine to bring in some kind of padding for your knees if that feels better for you. From our tabletop pose, put your big toes together, widen your knees just a little bit. So you're bringing them just a little bit further apart, and then push your hips back toward your heels for child's pose. Now, for some of us, our hips only go back as far as they want to. Then you're going to bring your chest and forehead down to the mat. Notice if you can surrender completely in this pose. And if you have a pillow nearby and it's hard to get your chest or your head on the floor, feel free to bring in your pillow in order to access the pose. If you can keep your neck in alignment and your eye gaze down, so rest on your forehead, you might smash your nose a little bit or smash your chin. See if you can tolerate that. And then notice now if you can stop looking at the screen and just feel this child's pose and the rootedness of this pose. Feel how the fingertips and hands and arms connect to the earth, as well as the tops of the shins. You're low to the ground here, so you're nice and rooted. If someone were to try to push you or move you, you're nice and grounded and connected to this pose. You can play around with the energy of pressing the elbows in a little further or drawing shoulders away from ears. And notice the quality of the breath when you're in this shape. Can you still breathe deep and expand through the belly when you're in child's pose? One more breath here. And then exit back up to tabletop. We're going to move slowly as we transition in poses. Our next pose is going to be mountain pose. We're going to spend a lot of time there. For some of you, you might use a block or a chair to help you get from the floor up into your mountain pose. For seasoned yogis, if you want to move through a downward dog to get to your mountain pose, which is standing is mountain pose, go ahead and come to standing in whatever way feels safe to you. So if you're familiar with downward dog in yoga, it might seem very natural to move from downward dog into mountain. If it's newer to you, come up off the floor whatever way you want. We're going to take time with our mountain pose because our feet and our legs, our lower part of the body, is our connection to the earth. So notice as you stand here, hopefully you're barefoot and you even have your socks off. So let your feet and your tissues make this connection. The tissues on the bottom of the feet are great. They're designed to communicate with the brain to help you understand your proprioception, where you are in space, and it's important for your balance. Start to rock back and forth in your mountain pose a little bit. Or even before you rock, just notice where you tend to put the weight in your feet. Notice if you hang out in your toes, shoulders kind of shifted forward. Notice if you hang out in your heels, shoulders back behind your hips. And then see if you can bring your weight right over the arches of your feet so that you have equal weight in the toe portion of your foot and the heel portion. So forward and back, that's our alignment. But inside and outside awareness of our feet is important too. Notice if you tend to hang out on the inside edges or the outside edges. And can you resolve and come to a more balanced structure so that all the skin of the feet is touching the ground? Lift and separate the toes, place them back down, and feel your big toe mound touch the earth, your piggy toe mound, and your heel. From that rooted position, many times because a lot of us sit, we're a little pitched in our hips. So send the fronts of your hips forward. Get the hips into full extension. And then turn on your glutes to support that full extension of the hips. Doesn't that feel delicious to open up the front of the hips? Now, I'm not asking you to arch your back. So your chest is going upwards to the sky. I'm just asking you to open up the front of your hips. From here, let's pretend like we have a ball in between our inner thighs. We're going to crush that ball together. Notice my feet aren't moving and my knees aren't moving in. From my hips, I'm crushing that ball together. Nice and open in the front of my hips, and then release that. Now pretend like I have a big rubber band on, and I'm going to tear that rubber band apart. And you'll notice different sensations, different muscles that turn on between crushing the ball and tearing the ball apart. Release that. Go back to your mountain pose, crush the ball, and while you're crushing, also tear apart. And you'll notice your feet kind of take this circular motion or this rotational motion. It's a different way of cueing what I've taught you guys all along about external rotation in the hips. Open up the front of your hips and firm your glutes to support your mountain pose. Shoulders are nice and relaxed. Chin is parallel with the ground. Breath in, breath out. So you may notice just by doing all of those activations, you're working harder in your mountain pose, not just standing there. From mountain pose, let's visit chair pose. Take you the tips of your fingers, press your hips back behind you so that you hinge as if you're going to sit down onto a chair, and bring your arms forward as a counterbalance. And then these arms are big, heavy levers. So now bring your hands into your chest, pressing your palms together. And remember that band we pretended that we had around our thighs? Start to pull that band apart a little bit as you hang out here in chair pose. Notice where the weight is on your feet. Notice if you're rolling into the insides of your feet. Try to flatten out your feet and still feel those triangles on each foot. Notice if your breath has changed, your heart rate starts to elevate, your nervous system is going. Relax and breathe. And then separate the hands, stand up tall, mountain pose again. Open up the front of the hips, squeeze the glutes to support this open hip posture, and then come back into your chair pose again. We're going to transition from chair pose, stand up, find mountain pose, squeeze the glutes, open up the hips. Inhale the hips back, tear the ground apart as you do. Chair pose. Inhale. Stand up tall, drive through your heels, squeeze the glutes, open up the hips, mountain pose. One more time. We're trying to activate these back muscles. So you want to load your glutes and your hamstrings here, chair pose. And when I give the cue, push through the heels, you want to feel your hamstrings and glutes work to get you to stand up into your mountain pose. Final time. A little bit more smoothly. Chair pose. Push through the heels and mountain pose. Awesome. Let's move into a forward fold now. This is an inversion. Our head's going to be below the heart. So if you have glaucoma or high blood pressure, you're going to bring in a chair or a prop to keep your head from going below the heart. I'll demonstrate it both ways. As we move into a forward fold, we're starting in our mountain pose. So all of those activations that we just learned in mountain pose. The initiation of our forward fold is our pelvis starts to fold forward. Our hips go back. Notice my knees are going to bend a lot, and I'm bringing my chest to my thighs. For glaucoma and heart problems, head is parallel with heart. Otherwise, if you have a mobility issue, you can use the chair, or if not, you can begin to bring yourself down to the mat. At this point, try to take your eyes off the computer and just listen to my voice. Can you release your head and let it hang? Slightly shake it, yes. And letting the neck feel some traction as the weight of your skull elongates and pulls on the neck. Nice bend in the knees. Take the hands and either travel them to your shins or the chair and try to flatten out your back here. So we were rounded before. Now we're bringing our back flat. So the crown of the head is reaching toward the chair. You might pop at the screen and look real quick and see how my back is flat. And then take your eye gaze back down to the floor. From this flat back, inhale here. Exhale, fold again. So notice how your back is rounding. Plant your hands on the floor and step back into a plank or a mod plank. Plank or mod plank. Good. If you're in a full plank, pull your kneecaps up, firm your glutes, open up the front of those hips without arching the back. Mod plank, you can do the same things. And then press back into a child's pose. come back up to tabletop position. And I realized I did something a little bit wrong. So let me see if I can fix this. I wanted to go from forward fold. I wanted to step 1 foot back. So if you can come back to your forward fold, let's just take 1 foot back. My apologies. So 1 foot comes back from forward fold, and we're going to come down to this kneeling, half kneeling position. Left foot in front, right knee is down. You can use your chair for support, any props that you want for support, but notice where your weight is. For a lot of us, our weight might be on our thighs, our chest, rest on our thighs, or in our hands. So I want us to shift the weight to the floor. Press down into the shin or the top of the back foot. Press down to the heel of the front foot and feel that energy travel all the way up to the glutes. Draw the navel into the spine and rise up. Here again, you might want to pad under your knee and start to play with opening up the front of that hip, just like we did in mountain pose. So allow the pelvis to come to neutral, really let the hip open up and firm this rear glute in order to support opening up the front of that hip. Nice, smooth breath here. You can add your arms into this pose, lengthening this lever. And as the arms reach up, you can feel the energy of the right or the back knee press down to the ground, creating more length in the body. As your arms come back down, bring them to the floor, hinge forward, plant your left hand inside your left leg, walk the left leg wide a little bit, and step the foot back into tabletop position. Curl the toes. We're going to hit downward dog here. Practicing downward dog, just elevate the knees off the ground a little bit. Notice I just lifted the knees a little bit. Now completely lift the hips. Notice my knees don't bend much at all. Once you get there, take your eyes off the screen. Let your head hang heavy and your gaze, the thing you're looking at is back between your legs. If you're not supposed to be in an inversion, you can practice downward dog on your chair with your head more level with your heart. Lift your heels really super high like you're on your tippy toes. And then walk your hands back towards your feet. Bend your knees a lot. Come back into that forward fold position. Feel the weight in your heels and feel your glutes fire. Press your heels down into the ground as you stand up, rise up, reach your arms overhead. If you feel a little dizzy, go right back down to the floor and come and stand in your mountain pose, strong mountain pose. Find those activations that we talked about in the beginning of class. We'll take this on the other side, so just move back to the front of your mat again. Again, if you feel dizzy coming out of the pose, come out super duper slow. And if you're just not sure, stay down. Don't force yourself up. We'll take this on the other side. Chair pose, sit your hips back. Bring your hands to prayer. And then push your hands back behind you. Nice. So you're going to work through the triceps, the back body here. Scoop the hands forward, stand up tall, mountain pose. Hands on the hips, tilt your pelvis forward, forward fold, drape your chest over your thighs, place your hands on the ground, on the chair or blocks, let the head hang heavy. Press into the blocks, flatten out the back, half lift. Inhale here. Exhale, fold again. Plant the hands down on the mat. Step the left foot back, put the left knee down. Notice where your weight is here, maybe a lot in your hands or on your thigh. Start to work the weight into your feet. Press through your front heel. Press through the top of your back leg. A lot of times we want to be here with our toes curled and we're not making a good connection to the earth. Press to the top of that shin. Use both glutes pulling together to help us rise up, shoulders over hips. If you're feeling some pressure in the knee, pushing back into this rear foot more can help take pressure off the knee. Open up the front of that hip, and then an option to bring your hands up overhead and reach and create more sensation. Remember, firming this glute that is associated with the hip that you're opening. can assist in that opening. Inhale here. Exhale, hands down to the mat. Right hand inside the right foot. Take the right foot and step it out wide. Bring yourself back to tabletop position. Now, you can choose to go into child's pose if downward dog isn't your jam, if that doesn't work for you. But if you're choosing downward dog, curl the toes, hover the knees, lift the hips, let the head hang heavy. Try to take your shoulders and shrug them into your ears and then let the shoulders slide down your back. You might feel a little bit of opening across the chest when you do that, and then release the head. It's hard to get the shoulders away from the ears without putting tension in the neck. This time, lift the heels super, super high, come into your tippy toes. Draw your navel into your spine and tippy toe your toes towards your hands. You might have to come up into your fingertips. You might bring in some blocks, but walk your feet to your hands and come into your forward fold. Let the head hang heavy. Keep breathing. Eye gaze is down to the mat. Just listen to my voice. Weight goes into the heels. Feel the back side of your body. Feel the glutes connect to the heels. Press through the heels. Rise up. Nice and slow. Reach up. Possibly look up. Breath in. Breath out. Mountain pose. Turn your body. If you can still see your screen, turn your body. If not, don't worry about it. But it's nice if you're facing the long edge of your mat here. We're going to work into some more grounding, rooted poses and standing poses. Take your feet and step them as wide as it feels safe to you. So notice my feet are wider than my shoulders and my hips. And then allow yourself to root into your feet here. Let the front of the hips open and support that by firming your glutes. Starting with one leg, pick up the toes and pivot so the toes are now facing the short edge of your mat. And without leaning your shoulders into it, keep your shoulders over your hips. Try bending the knee of the foot you rotated so the knee lands right over the ankle. So a common thing to do is this. So notice my body is traveling and my knee is way over the toe. Instead, scoot your foot out so the knee doesn't travel over the toe. You have this nice open position in the hip. Another common thing to do is to roll under the inside edge of our foot here. So pretend like you have that band on and you're pulling that band open, bringing your knee into alignment. Elevate your arms up so that your right arm or your front arm is in alignment with your front toes. And then your back arm is reaching towards the back of the mat. And turn your head and look over your front fingers. Try to grow a little bit taller in this pose by taking your sacrum and tilting it down to the earth and then lifting and lengthening through the spine. Slightly draw your feet together. Take a breath in. Exhale, hands to your hips. Straighten out your front leg. Pivot on your heel. We'll take that on the other side. Pivot your left heel. Open up your toes. Place the toes down. Bend the knee so that the knee aligns with the second and third toe. If you look down, you don't want to see your knee inside the big toe. And you might have to work and move your feet on the mat to find that. Notice if your body is traveling forward, bring your shoulders back right over your hips. Elevate your arms. Pull this knee toward the pinky toe like you have that rubber band on, and then turn your eye gaze towards the tips of your fingers. Let's bring our awareness to our back foot, firming the glute of the back foot, pressing through the heel of the front foot, slightly bring the ground together and grow longer in the spine. Crown of the head reaches to the ceiling. One more breath in. Straighten out this front leg. Pivot on your heels, come back to the front of the room, and then to exit this, heel toe your feet together, rather than picking up one leg, stepping on one foot. We're going to move into beginning our balance today. So in our root energetic center, since it has everything to do with our legs and connecting to the earth, it's one that's associated with balance. If you'd like to bring a wall or a chair prop in, you can. Before we start our balance poses, let's go back to that fundamental pose, mountain pose. Feel the feet connect to the earth. Have your weight distributed evenly in the feet. Open up and pitch the hips forward, or just open. And then you're going to shift the weight onto one leg by lifting the opposite heel up. So I'm peeling up my right heel. So I'm shifting weight to the left leg, but revisit mountain pose on the left side. What we tend to do is kind of collapse, revisit mountain pose on the left side. Take a little touch if you want. You can slide your toes in towards your standing leg and just rest your foot there like a kickstand and play with ever so slightly, using less and less of your toe on the ground, or if you feel comfortable, connecting your right foot to the inside of it, or connecting your free foot to the inside of your standing leg. If you've made that connection, push the bottom of your bent leg into your standing leg, and using your standing leg, push back to feel more grounded. Make sure you're breathing. We tend to hold our breath when we try to balance. One more breath, release, place your leg down. Now I'm going to tell you, it's hard to follow balance instructions with a video because what you really need to be looking at is a drishti, something that's not moving. Because I'm moving, you're probably looking at me. But now you know where this pose is going. So as we do it on this side, maybe you can look beyond the computer or down on the floor to find yourself on this side of the body. Mountain pose first. Peel up the heel and shift the weight. Revisit single leg mountain pose. And then start to move into the pose, feeling points of contact as much as you need them. It's also important when you work on your balance poses that you work at a level of balance that you can be successful in and that you can maintain the feeling of being balanced. If you push yourself to try something too complicated, then you're just in the feeling of being unbalanced all the time. So use that as a feedback tool. Notice if you keep fighting to try to do something harder than you're ready for. This kickstand is a great little feedback tool for the brain to tell you exactly where you are in space. Let's exit that pose, come back down to the feet, just feel the feet move into the earth a little bit. Now, I have kind of a crazy pose picked out for you. It's a pose commonly associated with your root energetic center. But I think you'll find a little bit of challenge in this one. Let's just play with it and be smart and have fun. If you have anything in your room that you can fold up and create some height, have that nearby. We're not going to use it quite yet, just have it nearby. Also, if you have a chair nearby, it might be beneficial here. Take your feet a little bit wider than we've had them before. Take them a little bit wider. Send the hips back and start to bring yourself into a deeper expression of your squat. So we're going down further than that chair pose. We're really coming into a squat. And if you have a chair, you might be able to use that to balance you to get even deeper into your squat. So wherever you are in your squat right now is fine. Don't look at me and judge yourself. Now push through the heels and come up to standing. For some of you, that may have been a no deal at all, and that's fine. We're just playing today. Now get that thing that you rolled up, that blanket or towel, place it down on the ground, and put your heels on it. I don't know if you can see on the screen there, but see how my heels are elevated? So my heels are pushing into it, but they're elevated, but I have nice contact with the balls of my feet on the earth. Feet are nice and wide, and I'm going to try that squat, that deep squat again, and you're going to see with your heels elevated, remember I got the chair here for balance, it might allow me to access that squat a little bit deeper. If you feel any pain in your knees or discomfort, this is not important. This is just fun for the people that are finding some benefit to this pose. Once you arrive in Malasana, or this deep yogi squat, you can imagine your sacrum, or that energetic center, and seal it up. Notice if you're pushing energy out, or if you can hold energy in and bring your shoulders over your hips. Feel free to come out of this anytime you want if it's too intense. Otherwise, you can lift up out of it, and whatever way you want, come down to the floor. We're going to exit out of that pose and make our way to the floor. Okay, so 2 more poses before we wrap things up here. This next pose, it's called a staff pose. And I really like this pose because it doesn't look like you're doing a lot, but you can really recruit a lot of musculature in this pose. Again, anytime you're sitting on the ground, if it feels good to elevate the hips, then by all means, feel like you can elevate the hips. Otherwise, extend the legs long in front of you and do your best to pull the legs together so that the seam in the middle, you're really zipping it up. You're pulling ankles and calf muscles and knees and inner thighs in. You can already feel the work of that pulling in. Now spread your toes and draw the toes back to your shins, putting your ankles into this flexion. So you're dorsiflexing the ankles, drawing in your inner thighs. Then you feel the sits bones and then sit up nice and tall in this shape. Crown of the head is reaching towards the sky. Maybe place the hands back behind and put your weight into your hands. Bend the elbows a little bit and use your hands to lift and extend through the chest. Squeeze inner thighs, rotate toes back. Shoulders are away from the ears. Draw your chin down to your chest. One more time, visualize that root chakra at the base of the spine. And energetically, notice if you're contracting the sits bones together to support and to keep energy in that area, or if you're pushing down and grounding through it, losing energy. Lift the chin, sit back up, make your way off the blanket. We're going to come down to our back for bridge pose. Go ahead and lay down on your back. And before you lift your hips, I don't know what your orientation is with the screen right now, but just look at this pose in the screen before you try it. What I want you to avoid is moving your head around as your hips are lifted. You want when your hips lift, you want the weight to be in your shoulders, but if your weight is accidentally too much in your neck and then you're moving your neck, that's a recipe for an injury. So I'll just show you the pose before you lift. Hands go down, hips lift. We're revisiting that theme, firming glutes to open up in the front of the hips. Before you try it, make sure your head is in alignment. You're looking at the ceiling, and then go ahead and give that a try. With your hips lifted in this position, notice how much you can open the front of the hips by using activation of the glutes on the backside. And then play around with those ideas that we did in mountain pose where you're squeezing the ball, that imaginary ball, or you're tearing that imaginary band apart. Continue to breathe and look straight up to the ceiling, keeping your neck safe and in alignment. One more inhale. Exhale, lower your hips down. We'll take a moment in final relaxation or for Shavasana here. For some, it can feel good to keep the knees bent. In fact, keep your knees bent and walk your feet as wide as the mat so that your pinky toe is at the edge. Let both knees fall over to the right side for a little windshield wiper, a little twist. Breathe into that twist. Pick the knees back up to center. Sorry about that. I have a new computer and I don't know how to make it not ding on that new computer. Take the knees over to the other side. Breathe in. And bring the knees back up to center. And you can keep your knees bent if that feels best on your back for lower final relaxation, or You can extend your legs all the way. We're going to rest here in just a moment of silence. Sometimes we think the Zoom meeting is paused, but we're just enjoying the silence. Allowing ourselves to absorb our work. In the interest of time, we'll move a little bit more quickly out of today's Shavasana. Start to wiggle your fingers and your toes and move your ankles and your wrists. Maybe bend your knees one more time, bringing your feet flat onto the ground. But this time, roll over onto whatever side feels best to you. So you're in like the fetal position, rolled over to your side. You can take your hands and make a little pillow right under your head and pause there for a moment. Give yourself gratitude for showing up today. Showing up is the hardest part. And then using your top hand, press yourself into the floor and rise up to a seated position. So we'll end class the way we started, seated in whatever seat feels best for you. Reconnecting one more time, rooting ourselves, feeling grounded in the earth, and reminding ourselves, I am grounded and I am safe. It's a pleasure and an honor to share this practice with you, and I look forward to seeing you next time.